Welcome to another video coverage of This Week in Rails. I'm Dave Kimura, and today we have Wojciech bringing us the updates. And again, I don't produce the weekly email that goes out, but instead I simply provide the video coverage of it. If you would like to get this email, you can go to world.hey.com/this.week.in.rails to receive your own copy. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So for the first item, the Rails Foundation is hiring an executive director, and this is great news. It means that they are not wasting any time. They are wanting to push this forward, and they are wanting to have some great momentum behind this. The executive director is going to be responsible for a lot of things with the foundation, from documentation, education, marketing, and events in the Rails ecosystem. So I'm really excited to see that things are moving along, and we're going to hopefully start seeing some progress or results of that pretty soon. And if you're a user of PostgreSQL, then this one is probably going to apply to you, where we are improving the case sensitivity uniqueness validation of these CI text columns. And essentially what this means is that with PostgreSQL, if you do a simple query on the database against a certain attribute, then it's going to be a case-sensitive search. With the CI text extension for PostgreSQL, you can use lower to then do a case-insensitive search, but the problem with that is that it doesn't use an index on the database side, so you're hurting the performance a bit. However, in the past, typically what I've done is simply just do a lower on the index, just so everything is stored in the lower case on the index, and when we do the query with lower, then it should use the index and it should be okay. And the next one is improved transliterate method performance. And essentially what this means is that if you have a string or some text that is already ASCII, then there's no need to perform the functions that will take non-ASCII characters and convert them over to ASCII. So we can see this being the case in the API doc, where you call transliterate on some non-ASCII characters, and then it converts it over to a acceptable ASCII character. And so if we look at the details of the pull request, essentially if your string does have some non-ASCII characters, then you're not going to see any performance improvement. However, if you have an already ASCII-based string, then you're going to see a significant improvement, and it's going to increase based on the length of that string. And the next one, make abstract adapter lock thread local by default. And this is an interesting one, and I don't think it's going to apply to many of us. And essentially what happens is when you are creating a fiber inside of a transaction, it causes a deadlock. And so I don't know if you've run into this one before, but I think it's one of those situations where there's probably a lot of gems out there that maybe is doing something similar to this and can benefit from this difference. But if you are dealing with a larger application and you've come across this, then hopefully this fix will help your issues. And the next one isn't really an update on the Rails framework, but just really what it's capable of. Shopify is one of the largest Rails applications out there, along with GitHub and others, but every Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Shopify sees a huge increase in their number of sales and traffic to their site. So they were able to handle, on a Rails application, 1.27 million requests per second, and that is a lot. And the infrastructure that they probably have to do that is probably pretty insane. There are some engineering blog articles from Shopify about their infrastructure, and from what I can tell, it's mostly a monolith. But to handle that kind of traffic is really something else. So I think we do approach a point where we can scale vertically only so much, and then we had to start scaling horizontally. And I think in the case of Shopify, they also do some distributions based on the location. So if you have a shop in one area, then that might be on a whole different instance of the Shopify application. But definitely come and check out the Shopify engineering tweet, because they go over a lot of the different metrics that they experienced over the Black Friday Cyber Monday weekend. And even though it's not Rails specific, our next update is that Stimulus 3.2 has been released, and it has some really interesting updates. So we got the Outlets API, which the Outlets is very similar to a target, except instead of targeting something within its own stimulus controller, you're able to target things outside of that stimulus controller. And with the keyboard events filter, you're going to be able to more easily add some interactions from the keyboard to your website. And essentially, we're getting stuff like key down left, you can then put to a certain stimulus controller action. And so that's pretty cool. And in the past week, we've had 29 contributors to the Rails framework. So again, I want to thank everyone who has contributed, especially the first-time contributors, in helping make this a great framework. And so there were quite a few first-time contributors, as well as a lot of veterans. So again, thank you very much. Well, that's all for this video coverage of This Week in Rails. Thanks for watching.